We are recording. If y'all don't know, now you know. I'm back in the building for a podcast, man. It's been a couple weeks since I've done one of these bad boys. I'm feeling good. Look, we got two cities behind us. But I'm going to introduce the man of New York City right here on my left because I'm looking at my screen and I'm looking at him at the same time. He's got New York City behind him. I've got Las Vegas behind me, and we're bringing worlds together, if you say that. So my man Elias Zepeda is in the house. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing great. What's up, Manny? Great to
It's
be
good.
here. Very excited.
Yeah, man. I'm ready for you to indulge your knowledge on the listeners here about how to do some cool marketing things, some funnels, and really helping people grow their businesses. Because, like you just said a few minutes ago, this is always on the grow, and we're here to help you all that are listening right now figure out ways that you can improve your performance, helping yourselves grow further faster. And Elias, I tell you, Elias, when we meet back about what 2, 3 years ago in Miami,
I
was
think
it?
it's been a little bit more. I think it was 2014.
No, godly man, that making me
20,
sound
no,
old, making me sound
20,
old now. Don't do that to me.
2016, 2017. I think it's been at least 3 or 4 years.
Yep, yep. So when I met Elias, this man was like the king at the time. He still is the king of network. Knows everybody. I mean, like godly, this who does this man not know? Um, and fortunately, I was able to share, space with him lots of different times. We had our rendezvous too, not in that type of rendezvous, but our fun out nights and just great times. And over the years, we've continued to develop this relationship, and now um, Elias has taken his person and his business to a whole nother level, really shifting from the networking space and now and going to build need clients now and develop his own company and become just this marketing titan, and helping a lot of top level subject matter experts and people out there really figure out processes and funnels and angles to win and make some more money, which is exactly his wheelhouse. So we're excited to have him come in here and share his insight and his brilliance to be able to do so. So, you know what, man? Talk to me about your pivot point in your business. I think that's important. You're an entrepreneur. You're hungry. You're going and getting it. Things have shifted here in the recent year and now have transitioned to this. So talk to me about that because I like to help people out with psychology and mindset first. And I know you do it well that have helped you build these businesses. But talk to me about how that has worked for you, man. How have you been able to stay afloat, manage yourself, and keep in mind the adjustments in the markets that we've been experiencing?
Awesome. Happy to do so. So I started the company about 11 years ago, and like the first 5, 6 years, we were mainly what we refer to as experiential marketing agency, which is we create events and we create experiences. So we were doing a lot of like trade show zapping, special events, brand ambassadors, that type of stuff. And then, slowly but surely, when I would mention to people I'm a marketing company, people would always reference and ask for like leads and sales and okay, you do events and you do staffing and you do trade shows and that type of stuff, but how can that translate into sales? And so we didn't start off as a digital marketing agency, but slowly like people kept asking for digital marketing. How do you advertise on Google? How do you advertise on Facebook? What's social media marketing? How can we leverage that for my business? And so it was kind of a force to reckon with, and we had to adapt to essentially pivot into a digital marketing agency. So 6 years ago, about 5 years into running the company, we started I started personally immersing myself in digital marketing, and I geeked out. I had this huge passion for it, and at the time, I'm not going to age myself, but at that time, that's when forums were really big. And so when you wanted to learn something, there was all these different types of forums. And so I spent so much of my free time because I was so passionate about learning this craft, just immersing myself in everything related to digital marketing. And that's kind of the genesis. I saw the power of what digital marketing can do for a business. I immersed myself in it, and then I shifted in building a team that can produce digital marketing services.
Yep.
And so slowly but surely, it took a while, but I built a solid team. What we have now of people that can produce, amazing marketing campaigns that are going to generate results for our clients. And so that was kind of the big pivot, that as social media, as technology companies started coming about, we needed to adapt to the times. And so that's kind of what happened with us pivoting, 5, 6 years ago into being, digital marketing agency.
Sure. love it, man. I appreciate you sharing that, like you said, Genesis. So, the word digital words, plural, because there's two words, digital marketing, internet marketing, my God, they're so widely tossed around today. And I mean, I know lots of people are entering the space, and I know you personally, so I know you're doing a great job. We've gone through a lot of your approaches and your ways of working, which I think are great. Um, but what do you think separates good digital marketing agencies, companies, or even people that play at a high level and do get results versus the ones that don't? Right? What are you noticing now that's kind of the big shift in the market? Because everybody seems to be getting in the space, but people aren't necessarily always getting the results. So, what are you catching on as far as what's working versus what's not?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, when it comes to digital marketing, it's essentially marketing online, marketing on the internet. And, when it comes to like what separates, a good digital marketer versus non-good, it really boils down to what is the specific service that you're offering. Because marketing can mean so many different things, right? You can do
Yep.
video, you can do content, you can do SEO, you can do, websites. There are probably hundreds of things that fall within that specific wheelhouse. So one of the things I've learned in the past 11 to 12 years of running my business here is that clients, they want to see results, and clients are impatient, and when it comes to like marketing services, some of these things, some of the services, they can take months in order to start building engagement, in order for you to start seeing the results and reap the rewards of whatever campaign you're producing. And frankly, clients don't have that time or the patience, right? And so what we decided to specialize in, and what I'm most passionate about, is generating results as quickly as possible. And that's why the name of the agency is Need Clients Now. It's not need clients in 6 months after this campaign starts building engagement, starts getting results. It's not in 5 months or 4 months, right? It's how can you get quick wins and how can you get the results? And that's, I think, what separates, a talented digital marketer versus others, is by being able to really come up with the right strategy based off of who the client is and who they're targeting and what the campaign consists of, and then getting some quick wins. That's what it's all about. And
Yep.
so that's how it works. And so when it comes to what we do, like leads, advertising on social media, building sales funnels, you can launch a campaign, you can launch an ad, and within 24 hours, you can start seeing results come in. So that's the part that's most exciting about this industry, is you're able to get some quick wins and start making a very quick difference in clients and in their clients' businesses.
I love it. So let's talk quick wins, man. How do we get some people that are listening right now? Assume, look, if you're a business owner or you're a what was the Jay-Z thing? I'm not a businessman. I am
I'm
a
a business
businessman.
man.
Yeah. Right. So, whether you're operating your own personal, whatever that might endeavor, your own personal idea endeavor, that's fine. Or you have an actual business that you're growing. Marketing matters, regardless of what you're doing. Hell, if you're an individual, marketing yourself matters, right? So, Elias, what are some out of the box things where you can dive into here that could help some folks out, just from a thought process, maybe that can get them going in a good direction based off of your expertise, your years of experience, and certainly you proving results in multiple domains with different top level folks. What would you say?
Well, you need to have a plan, right? And so you need to have a couple of things figured out before you really start scaling and start advertising. And one of them is you really need to know who your customer is. You need to be customer obsessed. You need to know everything about your customer and your target audience. You need to know where they're spending time. You need to know what pages they're visiting. You need to know what they're doing and what they're doing on the weekends, what they're doing during the weekday, what newspapers they read, what digital platforms. You need to know so much about your customer in order for you to really start advertising and find targeting that. And so you need to be customer obsessed, and you really need to know who your customer is and what they're doing. And then you need to have a system for prospecting. You need to have a system for prospecting. You need to figure out how you can get more of these customers. So unfortunately, a lot of these like super small local businesses, they never scale to the next level. They're always a small local company because they don't advertise, and because they rely on referrals, and they rely on other limiting platforms that prevent them from growth, right? And so now we live in an era where you're able to advertise on platforms, on social platforms like Facebook and Instagram and Google and YouTube, right? And so these platforms have been around now for a while, but you'd be surprised. A lot of small businesses here in America, they haven't tested out, they haven't advertised, and it's been a really fundamental change. Like when we first started, the company, Facebook advertising wasn't really around back then. So in order to, the word advertising scared a lot of small business owners, because to them, to advertise meant that you need to spend a lot of money, right? And so that's one of the most common myths. Advertising equals a lot of money, and that's not necessarily the case, right? If you're advertising today on Instagram, on YouTube, on Google, and any of these platforms, you can start off with such a small minimal budget, 10, 20, $30 a day, right? In order for you to figure out how effective this platform is going to work out for you. But that's one of the main, common myths in this industry. And now that we've had this shift into these social platforms, it's really been a game changer. It's been revolutionary for these small businesses to have the ability to target their ideal prospect. And that's an awesome thing, because again, 10, 15, 20 years ago, in order to advertise, you were advertising on, yellow pages and magazines and TV, and it was a lot more expensive. But I like to refer to the pay and pray model. You would pay and you would pray that your actual target audience was actually, reading, viewing the message, listening to the message, right? And it's such an outdated platform. And then nowadays with these platforms, you're able to really fine tune and target at a very hyper granular level your ads to your target audience. And so you're able to target based off of location and geography and so many different factors, and that presents a really amazing opportunity. But most importantly, it's not necessarily expensive to advertise. You can pause an ad campaign at any time. You can limit the budget to I'm talking $20, $30 a day if that's all you have to spend on your marketing budget. And so it's been a huge shift. And so for these companies that aren't aware of it, that's one of my favorite aspects. Is like, hey, your customers are probably spending time on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and there's an opportunity for you to target them, provide some value, and start engaging and nurturing them so that you're able to convert them into customers. And so that's kind of a big shift that, with small businesses is don't be scared to advertise. It's not scary as it was, 10, 15, 20 years ago. And you can generate amazing results. And that's the type of stuff that we do day in and day out for the clients that we're working with.
Yeah, that's beautifully said. And I think it's like you said, the impatience for the business owner gets the best of them. And then my question for you, as you segued right into the answer for that question that I just asked you previously into that, was you said that you have to know who your customer is, right? You have to figure out that individual. What is it that you think keeps someone that owns the business from going that deep and figuring that out? Because I know I've had the exercises before where it's like, you got to, where do they sleep? When do they wake up? What do they eat? Like, how are you supposed to get to that place mentally to even figure that out in the process? And I know it works, but for somebody that doesn't understand, it's like, well, where would I even begin to do that? Like, why do I go find somebody on the street and talk to them and, assume that they're my ideal customer? Do I look at history, who's already came and bought from me? And then do I go ask them, what the hell do they do at night? What do they eat? Like, how do I profile them out in detail to figure that part out? Is my question.
Great question. For some reason, some small business owners, they're scared for some reason to contact their customers. But you'd be surprised, something like just calling one of your customers and asking them a couple of questions. Most of the time, these people are going to be receptive to that. Hey, Manny, do you mind if I ask you just a couple of questions? We really appreciate your business, and I'm just curious, what made you reach out to us? You're asking them questions, and you're documenting those questions, and you're asking more of your customers those questions to figure out what it is that, what was their pain point? How did your product or service help solve their pain point? And really just kind of conducting your own inexpensive market research. You'd be surprised. Your customers are going to be receptive to something like that. But again, it's really important to figure out, because you use that marketing research in your marketing materials. You need to figure out what's the reason they went with you. You need to figure out how effective is your solution for helping solve their problem, solving their pain point. right? And then just multiplying that so that you start really understanding your customer day in and day out. And that's going to help you become a better business owner and a better marketer. But really, just don't be afraid to contact your customers. Don't be afraid to go out and network. Don't be afraid, to ask. You'd be surprised just asking. Asking, it'll get you really far. But you just
Sure.
have to take that action.
I'm glad you brought up the word networking because I know that you have a rich history in that, and that you started off in the more, like you said, experiential type of approach into marketing. Did the fact that you were savvy in that arena benefit you? And there's a reason why I'm asking this question. Did it benefit you in being able to transition and pivot your business here, more recently, from having great network and having great relationships and being able to really pull yourself in a nice, awesome surrounding of people? Did that help out with you in terms of like your networking background and having the right relationships?
Absolutely. I mean, networking is essential. Networking is essential. Being able to connect with someone and have that comfortability to communicate and to reference what it is that you do and what's the problem that you solve and how can you connect with them, how can you provide value to them. That's going to be a valuable asset that'll work with you for your whole entire life. But really what it comes down to is just having a system for finding new customers, for attracting new customers and converting new customers. That's really the name of the game. But networking is always going to be helpful. That's never going to go out of style. And networking can mean in-person networking. I mean, of course, right now we're not doing much of that these days,
Right, right.
but there are so many online networking platforms and social networking platforms and stuff. So you don't have to be limited to just live networking events and meeting people at a coffee shop or at a local networking event. Networking can be done anywhere, anytime, and you got to be effective at it to really help people understand what it is you do, what's the problem that you help solve, and how to keep in contact with them. So I think those are valuable assets that you can carry along with you, at any phase of the business.
Sure. Yeah. And then the reason I asked that question because I was looking for you to give me the answer to that. Like, look, you still need the network. You still need to be out there and talking with people. And regardless of the shift in the marketplaces, it's more essential now than ever. And I think you do a good job of that too. I remember you're just very personable. You had a great outgoing personality. Do you have any tips for people that, and I'm tackling the networking thing because I know it's important. I know it's how we met, and I know it's what you were really concentrating on back then and just crushing it. Um, what would be some helpful insights that you learned in terms of more empowered networking as I still maintain the continuity of your marketing genius here in the next couple of minutes?
Yeah, thank you for that. Actually, when we met, I think it was in Miami, and you saw me network with people that were at the event that we were at,
Yeah,
and then you saw me continue the conversation from that event to the after party, and that deal I'd say within like 45 days turned into a $20,000 contract for me.
amazing.
And the genesis was that same
Yeah,
day I met you, and
yeah.
so networking can be so effective.
Where's
But
my
really,
cut? Where's my cut, man? Damn, I thought it had something to do with that, man. It's in my money.
I
No,
mean, what it comes down to is being confident. You have to be confident in what you do, and you have to communicate effectively, and you have to have genuine interest. You have to be a good listener. I mean, there's so much that goes into being a good networker. But you'd be surprised. It's not just the outgoing, the extroverts that are good networkers. Anybody can be a good networker, and really, what it falls down to is you need to communicate well. You need to have a plan for follow up. You need to really emphasize what it is that you do and the value that you provide, and that's really what it comes down to. And you need to somehow stand apart. And so what I did in that particular instance, and we were in Miami at the time, is I had invited them to an event, to an after party that we were hosting, and I ended up hosting them there. And then I took the initiative to express interest in keeping the conversation going, and that's what led to the deal happening. It was a great deal. They're a Fortune 50 company,
wow.
and it led to a sizable deal that I'm very happy, very proud of.
That's great, man. No, I love it. Thanks for sharing it that way too. It just brings some broad perspective as to the insights of some of the things that worked and continue to work. So that's a great place to be. Okay, so back to the marketing thing. Now you talked about systems. Okay, I understand it. Systems are always same thing. Words always tossed around. Um, Marketing system, engine, whatever you want to call it. You can bring clarity to that based on what your knowledge base looks like. But what would you say is critical in terms of a system that drives a level of performance in the marketing phase for these individuals to be able to have more of whatever that result is that you've so clearly mentioned here, that would get them more results fast. Like, nah, I got the clients now. Need clients now.
Absolutely. So, I mean, it first starts off with just, at a very basic level is having the right tools. And you'd be
Mm,
surprised, so many small businesses today, they don't have automation. They don't have a CRM, right? And so some of these tools and platforms are going to make your life easy because now you're able to store, let's say if you're at a networking event or wherever you met someone, you're able to store their info and you're able to start communicating with them and sharing information on you, your problem, and the problem that you solve. And so something so fundamental like having just an automation tool where you can continue nurturing your prospect and keeping them aware of what it is that you're doing, the wins that you're getting, the problems that you solve, and so much more to continue indoctrinating people. That makes a huge difference. You'd be surprised. A lot of small businesses today in the year 2021, they still don't have a CRM. They still don't know what a CRM. And so these things at a very low level are going to make a fundamental change in the business because it's going to make your life easy. You can automate your messages, you can automate text messages, ringless voicemails. There's a lot of marketing technology that is going to make a huge difference, that can make a difference, and is going to make your life a lot easier by helping automate things, right? And so I think that's a really big one in having these systems is you have to have the right tools. And again, these tools are very inexpensive. Believe it or not, there are free CRMs in the marketplace. And there are some very inexpensive platforms you can utilize to start broadcasting your message. And that's really important so that your customers and your community start really being informed of what it is you do, what it is, what problem you're solving, and what's in it for them. How can you help them, right? And so I think some of those things at a very low level can make a huge difference for some of these small businesses that haven't really taken the leap and growing and getting away from that phase of like referrals only. To take that leap, you need to have the right systems and CRMs, automation, having an omni-channel platform. That's what's going to make a big fundamental shift in the business.
got it. So when somebody says, "Hey, Elias, I want you to come in and help me with my marketing," what's kind of a step-by-step blueprint that you would start to, in a high level, right? It's like, okay, we come in, got to work with you on A, talk about B, think about C, and then start institute D, and then D, E. Yeah, I was my ABCs, right? A, B, C, D, E, F. Yeah, E and F after that, man. Hey, sometimes we forget, man. It's been a long time. So how does that process look for someone like you? What are you analyzing to get clarity on? Is this a viable opportunity? Can we help them at a high level? Because something that's going to help people think differently about what would attract a good nice marketing team, or what they should be considering in any event, because it's going to help them regardless, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the first things I look into, when we're qualifying a customer is understanding their business model, understanding the vision for the company. But more importantly, we need to know their price points, and they need to have a healthy enough margin, a healthy enough price point that we can actually start to market the business. So, I have friends and I know people that have businesses that they're selling low ticket products, right? And so if you're selling a low ticket product, and if you're working with very razor thin margins, you're not going to have the ability and the opportunity to really market because you're going to be spending advertising dollars. So that's one of the things that we look at is, what's the price point? That's one of them. Is it healthy enough margins for you to actually start advertising and acquiring customers and building these systems, of course. And then we need to look at, if your team as well. So when we're generating leads for a client, we need to have someone that's going to be dedicated to contacting leads. So do you have a team? How strong of a team are they? And then we look at other things as well, the size of the business, the vision of it as well. I mean, you'd be surprised. Some businesses, they actually like where they're at and they don't really want to grow. So to someone like me that's passionate about helping scale businesses, it's interesting to hear that. But hey, more power to them. Some businesses are very comfortable with with what they're doing and where they're at, and they have no interest in growing. And that's another thing we need to figure out. What we do is going to bring results for them. So we need to ensure, is this something you want to do? Do you really want to grow? Do you really want to attract new customers and so forth? Those are some of the qualifying questions that we ask to really get to know the business. And then we need to get to ensure that they have a proven, that they really know their customer, and that they have a proven offer. That's what's going to make a big difference, because what we do as a marketing company is we're driving more traffic to their offer. We're getting more awareness. And so we need to make sure that the problem that they're solving is really a problem out there in the marketplace. So all we're doing is amplifying that problem, getting them more customers and more people. So those are some of the qualifying questions that we ask.
I dig it. Yeah, that's phenomenal, man. I appreciate you for sharing that. Now, you said something great in there, which, yeah, like I said to you before, the way my brain works is we get to be talking about something and then something comes up because I'm listening and I get curious and I start asking questions based off of that from there, which was, you said some business owners want to stay where they're at. Okay, cool. So, in your thoughts, it's no different than somebody that gets to go out and meet and connect with a bunch of different people, and he has these relationships that they develop, and they learn that this guy does this because of this reason, and then they go to the next guy and it's like this guy does this because this reason, but that guy that does that for that reason is doing exponentially more for whatever reason because he's got something different or he's applying a different approach. But you've been able to experience all these different encounters with these people. So in your opinion and what you see, what is the difference between the guy that just stays at whatever he's at versus the one that just completely goes over here in terms of intangibles? I think is my question, right? So now I'm bringing it back to more of sort of the intangibles, the mindset stuff, where people that are listening that are potentially thinking about growing their business. And I'm not always talking about marketing, because marketing is great, but you got to have the right mental resources in place to be able to be like, okay, I'm willing, open, able to just, either way, I'm going to figure this out, because your interactions with these people are regular. I'd be curious to know what you see from Elias's viewpoint, not from what the status quo says, not what I'm going to read on a freaking article on a blog or something like that, right? I don't want the normal stuff. I want the extraordinary stuff, man. Come on now.
I think to some extent it's a it could be a limiting belief.
Hmm.
It can be somehow a lack of confidence that what you do makes a difference. So I think the big difference between those that are really interested in growing the business and scaling the businesses, they they have that confidence that their product and their service is going to make a difference, and they want to serve more people. They need to go out and expand, and they have goals, and they have the right mindset, and that's what I see. But I also meet and talk to some individuals that they're perfectly happy where they're at, and
Yeah.
that's fine for them.
Yep.
But really what I think it is, it's confidence, it's mental state, and really knowing that what they need to do is reach and serve more people, having the willingness, and then having the interest in its labor intensiveness to a certain extent to want to grow the business. It's longer days, longer hours, hiring more people, growing the business. So you need to have the right mindset for putting in that extra work and really helping grow the business. So that's basically what I see from companies that are scaling and those that are staying stagnant.
Solid. No, I'm with you there. And I think it comes down to eh, being willing to iterate, right? I mean, make the adjustments and where when needed, not be so married to one thing. If it doesn't work, okay, let's shift gears, let's improve it here, let's change that there, and that's just the daily grind of being an entrepreneur, right? I mean, it's
And
just like,
and some of these companies, it's interesting because some of them are, "Oh, I don't need any marketing," right? They almost have a little
yeah,
bit of arrogance.
no,
I hear that all the time.
right,
I don't need any marketing. That's like, okay, your website has broken links. I don't know if you knew that. And what was the revenue in 2020? How big is your team? And so some people have that that extra confidence in thinking that they don't need any marketing. But when you really start asking questions, it's almost going to bother them. So you have to ask that strategically so you're not offending them. But again, it falls down to, do you really want to grow the business or not?
Sure.
what's your desire in reaching and serving more customers
Right.
and building the company. But that's something that we see quite often.
Talk to me about, because look, marketing and sales are interrelated. Um, your because this is where I think semantics can really become a challenge sometimes. I think people would misunderstand the differences. Um, I'm curious to know what your angle is as far as how you perform marketing and getting sales. Like, what is your way of approaching it, and how would you explain it to somebody as it relates to what you specialize in terms of marketing versus sales, or maybe they're even together? Um, I'm curious to know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, absolutely. There is a lot of connection between them, right? Because there's kind of a myth that marketing is just generating the lead and generating the awareness and the impressions, and then sales is the actual conversion. But they're certainly intertwined. And so as a marketer, you can have the attitude of like, well, it's sales responsibility to close the sale. You're responsible for the sale too as a marketer. At least we are. We're responsible for generating good prospects, good leads, people that raise their hand and said, hey, I'm interested. Hey, I want you to contact me. Hey, I'm opting in for you to contact me because I want to hear more about your product and your service. And so there's a huge synergy between them.
Sure.
So when you're marketing, when you're running a fluid, successful marketing campaign, you're going to be generating a lot of interest. You're going to be generating leads. You're going to be generating more traffic. You're going to build excitement about whatever product, whatever campaign you're running. And the sales need to be ready for that. And you need to communicate with sales and have a really strong relationship to have them prepare for what's about to happen. Hey, we're launching this campaign. You need to be updated on what's the marketing message. You need to be updated on this is the page that they're visiting, right? And so sales has to have a strong knowledge of what marketing is doing, and so I think that's really important
Yeah.
for those departments to be intertwined, to be on the same page, and to be in direct communication at all times, so that you're able to reach success in whatever the campaign is.
That's important. I dig it. When you're talking about, because it sounds like you were breaking it off, and I'm sure you have done where you do campaigns where you run into low ticket offers where those conversions happen online. So in that case, there is no need for a team, but there are still teams in most cases doing back end fulfillment, upsells, and higher ticket stuff, which I'm sure you would say or agree with, right? Is that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. I mean,
Okay.
even if you have a low ticket product, even if you're selling, let's say an ebook or info product, you'd be surprised. People are still going to have questions. They're still going to email customer service. They're still going to email sales. They're still going to have
Yep.
questions. So as much as small business owners today want to emphasize, well, I don't want to talk to anybody. I just want the sales to come in. Like that's not how the real world is. People are going to have questions. And so yeah, of course, it depends on the service. It depends on the price point. It depends on a lot of different factors. But most of the high ticket stuff, if you're selling products that are or services that are thousands of dollars, it's very unlikely if you're running cold traffic, if people don't know who you are, that for those people to just whip out their credit card and pay you three, four, five, $10,000. It's very rare for you to do that, right? And so for in those instances when you're running a service and product that's thousands of dollars, you need to have the sales prepared to engage with these individuals and build a conversation and get them moving towards the sales cycle of qualifying them, and then if they're qualified, converting them, closing the sale. And so if the product's thousands of dollars, you're going to need a salesperson or a sales team that's contacting, pre-qualifying, and then closing the sale. And if the product is low ticket sales, there are lots of things that can be done where you put buy now button, depending on what the campaign is, what the service, what the product is, where some of those sales can come in depending on what you're offering and what the value proposition is. And so it's kind of how that works.
I like it. Now, something you said on the previous answer, which was also part of my question sequence here that I was going to ask you. Um, when you said you have to, you got to get people to raise their hand, you got to get, when you're generating a campaign, it's your job in marketing to get the right lead and to verify that they're in fact qualified. How do you do that? Like, how are you measuring that, Elias? Like, I get it. You send out a campaign, you get a bunch of people that start, I get it. They're raising their hand. Fair enough. But in your domain, how are you ensuring that that lead is actually the right lead in their journey, right? At what point are you kind of analyzing that and then saying, well, John Smith hit me up. He wanted the report of the ebook, but John Smith was no good for whatever reason, even though all people are good, but he wasn't a good lead for us. Like, how do you kind of measure all that nitty gritty stuff going on in between in that?
Well, I think it starts with the targeting, right?
Got
And
it.
so if you're running a local campaign, let's use Las Vegas as an example, and you're getting folks from Chicago that are contacting you and you're a strictly local company, then there's a problem there,
Yeah, yeah,
right? Your
yeah.
targeting's off, right? So it starts with the targeting and it boils down to what we just talked about a couple minutes ago, knowing your target audience. So when you're advertising on, let's say, Facebook or Instagram, you're able to add the parameters of who these people follow, right? What are their behaviors, right? What's their area, and so many other different aspects of that. So it boils down to targeting the right person. And then the second phase is ensuring that the copy, the copies is making sense, is attracting them. So a lot of times in the copy of the headline, you're directly speaking to that target audience. And that's what the copy is doing in that phase of the funnel, is it's calling out the customer, it's calling out the prospect, and it's sharing what their pain point is and how you help solve it and what are the next steps. And that's what's necessary when you're building a campaign, when you're building a landing page, when you're building a funnel, is you're calling out your prospect and they're reading the message and they're saying, hey, this is me, I'm going to click that call to action button, and they're going to take the action there. And then, depending on the funnel, ideally right now, lots of business owners, they want to add their calendar links. So they want people to schedule the calls if it's a phone related funnel. And so that's typically how it works. It starts with the targeting and targeting the right people, knowing who your customer is. And then it's having the copy and the overall page, the design, and the messaging really speak to who that target audience is. So there's lots of factors that go into it, and making sure the fundamental difference between a good and a bad lead.
Now, you said funnel. I want to know about some funnels, man. Well, that's just like one of those words that gets thrown out there with digital marketing. So, a funnel for any business looks like, how would somebody that, let's just say, this is funnels for dummies, right? And we need to educate somebody on like why a funnel matters, what they can do with it, give them some context as to actually getting something in motion, even if they don't necessarily go and do a funnel. But what are your top level thoughts on that?
Funnels, the big buzzword in the past couple years,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Of
right? And
course. Oh, I
so
see it every day. Every day the funnel word is everywhere.
so really all a funnel is in the world of digital marketing is it's the customer journey, right? What's the customer journey towards purchase, right? And so there are many different types of funnels, but what it boils down to is how are we attracting people and what are the steps they're taking in between to make a purchase, and not just make a purchase, but continue making a purchase and continue being part of the company life cycle, right? And so there's always steps to take. And so that's really all a funnel is, right? And so at the very simple sense, it could be opt-in and like a thank you page where now I'm collecting their info. And now I have, what's referred to as a lead, right? And then to many complex different types of funnels that have multiple pages, but really what it falls down to is it's what's that customer journey? How are you finding and attracting people? And what are the steps that prospect is taking so that I get them to buy from me? And not just that, how do I get them to continue buying from me? And that's really all a funnel is. And so there are
Right.
many different types of funnels. A lot of the ones that we specialize in is, attraction funnels and getting leads, collecting their info, and then nurturing and indoctrinating them to eventually purchase from, our clients and customers. And then you have many different types of funnels, like a webinar funnel. That's a very popular funnel these days, right? And something like a webinar funnel can work and be really effective. And for some of those businesses and some of those companies that it's fairly complex what they offer. you can't just get across the message and what the business does within just a couple minutes, because people are going to have lots of questions. And that's when the webinar funnel would be most effective, when you really need to spend 45 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour, 1.5 hours, and really explaining what it is that your business does, what it is that the problem that you're solving. And really you need that longer time to really spend with that prospect so that they fully understand the benefit of what you do, the value of what you're doing. And so webinar funnel is a very popular one, but there are so many different types of funnels in between. But again, what it boils down to is what's the customer journey? And that's really what a funnel is.
Right. So if there's a lot of funnels that are available that you can have use case for, how would one tighten up which ones to use if they're just a beginning, right? At the beginning and they don't know what to do? Is it like you said, is it figuring out their buying or are they testing different things? Like really talking about diving into some of the, strategy here with the marketing thought process, because that could be exactly why somebody doesn't do it, because it's like, my God, there's a million of these things. How do I know where to start? Like what? I'd rather just keep doing what I'm doing. It scares them back into complacency, right? So, um, how do you pick the right funnel? Like, how do you begin to figure that part out? And I understand the customer journey part, but you're a smart guy and you do this for a living. So I'm curious how one out there would be like, okay, great. At least that gives me something I can put my foot forward on. I can move into. I'm like, okay, I feel a little bit good. I'm tiptoeing. I'm getting going in that right direction. Or they could just hire you, right? And just go hire Elias, by the way. Just get him and his team to take care of business.
I mean, the truth is that funnels it's a lot of work, right? And so
Right.
there's so many moving pieces to a funnel. You can have a beautiful funnel, but if the copy isn't perfect, if it's not speaking to your audience, and your funnel's not going to convert. So there's so many pieces to it. It's the traffic source, whether it's cold traffic or if you already have a list of some sort, organic social promotion, right? It depends on the traffic source, the type of funnel, the copy, the design, the tech aspect. And so that's why it's intimidating to a lot of business owners. But in order for a business owner to really select which funnel is the right funnel for me, it really falls down to, what's the business plan, right? And what's the customer cycle? And then evaluating based off of the cycle, based off of what product or what service they're offering, is really evaluating what it is that they do and what's the path to conversion, right? And so it depends. There's no right answer. Like this funnel is perfect for everyone,
Right.
because it's gonna vary. Some companies, they don't need a webinar because people will understand what it is they do and they'll make a purchasing decision within a handful of minutes. So you need a more simple sales page or a more simple funnel. And then other businesses that are more complex, you need you need time frame to indoctrinate and to really spread out the benefit of that product or service. And so there's no right answer to that. It really is contingent on evaluating the business plan, the business cycle, and understanding your customer is. Do they purchase one time? Do they end up purchasing every so months? There's so many different factors to it. So there's no really right answer to that. It's a matter of strategizing and evaluating. But it really falls down to is just getting traffic and getting leads. And then what are you going to do with those leads? How are you able to sell them your product and your service? And how are you able to continue keeping them in your ecosystem so that they can continue being customers over and over again over their life cycle?
Yeah, I love that. By the way, there might not be a right answer, but that was a damn good answer right there. So I love it. I mean, information packed right there. So now again, we good on time? We good on time? Yeah,
Yeah.
you gotta, okay, good. Just make sure you gotta go here just yet, because that's now the questions starting to turn up on me. Um, so talk to me about the marketing psychology. This is big, and I know that to be true because it's like, man, I think in our own journeys we finally hit peaks where we're like, something's not right. I don't necessarily understand from a psychological and a biological standpoint how this whole thing works. Well, and you start getting curious, right? So in your processes, like even for you personally or with your team, when you come in, how important is that? And like, what are you looking at as it relates to the psychology of getting these people to take those actions? Because that's a lot of what has to do here, right? It's like,
Oh man,
yeah,
that's a great question, and that's so important, right? So when we first start working with a customer, once we strategize, which funnel, we're going to be producing for the client, there's a long questionnaire that the client's going to fill out. And that questionnaire, we're asking the client questions like, why is your product better?
Mm,
Right? We're asking the question, what is the benefit? What is your unique selling proposition? Right? So that's all the data that we need in order to really fine tune the copy, right? And that's what it comes down to is the copy. We're speaking to that audience, right? And so psychology plays a huge role in what we do because we need to pinpoint, we need to highlight, and we need to emphasize what are the problems that the prospect has and how does this product, how does this service help solve that problem. So lots of psychology involved, and the work that we do as a direct response agency is really understanding what are the pain points of the customer, right? And how are we going to help solve that? And so there's lots of questions that clients have to fill out in order for us to really start fine tuning the copy, and that's plays a really big role in it. And that's why direct response copywriters are so well paid, because that's a challenging aspect of building a sales funnel, is putting together that sales message on the sales page, on the landing page, on the email sequences, even on the text messages, to call out your customer and have them take action. So the copy is one of the most important aspects of marketing, and that's why direct response copywriters are so well paid, because they understand the psychology of how badly does that prospect want to take action, and what are they willing to pay in order to help solve that problem. So lots of psychology involved in what we do as a marketing agency.
does so you all do it well. I'm sure you and your team come together on that. When you think about that person that does that for you, is that person very well versed in marketing psychology? Do they get something different than the next person? Like, what allows them to do that properly outside of just having answers to questions? I get that part, right? But in terms of like brain function and the ability that they have to see things differently, or do they know that like, what really pulls heartstrings? You see where I'm going with that? Like, I'm
Yeah,
very,
so
very curious.
that's a twofold question. One is, the copywriter needs to fully understand everything about the target audience,
Okay.
everything about the customer,
Yep.
right? And the psychology of what that customer does for fun, where they're spending time, what are their pain points, what would happen if you were to solve that problem that they have? How would that make them feel and think? And what would that do for them? So lots of psychology there. But the second part of that is really testing, right? You don't know until you start
Yep.
testing a funnel, until you start advertising, right? So even if we have the client fill out the questionnaire, right, and we have a good idea of if the copy of the campaign is going to speak to the audience and how effective is this campaign going to be, once you go live, it's a whole different story. Now we're seeing directly what the audience is thinking about the message, and we're able to use amazing tools. We're able to see how long they're spending on a page. We're able to see where they're clicking. We're able to see where they're bouncing from the page. There's a lot of technology and tools that we have. Marketing technology is amazing. So you have tools that you're able to see all of that data, right? And so based off of the data, we look at the data, we extrapolate it, and then we continue optimizing the campaign. And that's what digital marketing is. It's a series of tests and experiments in order for you to dial down when and how you're going to have that customer take action.
Yep.
So it requires not just the psychology, not just the right copy, but continuous experimentation, continuous testing, continuous optimization. And that's what optimization is continue making and improving the campaign based off of the data that you have.
Phenomenal answer. Yeah, I love that. I'm so in love with what you just said, and I think that um, what that leads me to is okay. Well, how do you how do you know what to measure in there? Like, I get it. You just said there's tools. Okay, great. But you put out this campaign. How do you know to test the copy versus the button? Or like how do you really know that is my question, right?
Ooh, you're
Because
geeking
it's
out now.
yeah, I'm
You're
totally
geeking
geeking.
out
I'm
now.
totally geeking out because there's so many things like that can happen. Because I'm new to this stuff. I'm aware of it, but like getting more into it myself because I have to start to understand it. I know great people like you and other great people like you, and so I'm just like, okay, well, it's fascinating to me because there are people that geek the hell out of this stuff like to the 10th degree. Um, but yeah, because I don't come from that background. So I'm like, well, okay, so if I put a page up and it's really, okay, we think this is the first, we're going to push this out, Elias, right? We know this is going to work. Great. So now am I giving this like 5 days, and in 5 days, am I going to be looking for something that can tell me that, oh, the copy's not right, or this sentence was off, or that button was wrong, or the colors or the images were wrong? Like, dude, help me out here, man. Like, I'm so
Yeah.
curious.
So I like to use the saying, and this is like, back in junior high, high school, like, back when you're playing basketball, I don't know if you ever had this, but the ball never lies, right?
Uh-huh.
And so I compare that to the data never lies, right? You have
Yep.
to look at the data, and trust me, when you launch a successful, or when you launch any marketing campaign, you're going to know right away how effective it is. You're going to see the comments. If you're running an ad on Facebook or Instagram, you're going to see the comments right away. So if it does not make sense, if people don't believe it, if there's something off in the messaging, you'll know. You'll know because people are very vocal about it, especially behind a computer. People will comment, right? And that's why you see lots of ads with lots of negative,
Yeah,
comments,
all the time.
trolls
What's
and
up
things
with
like
that?
that.
Yeah, you
Exactly.
suck.
People
It's funny. It's actually cracks me up. I'm sorry. That is
it
ridiculous.
does lots of
Yeah,
trolls
yeah,
out there,
yeah.
but people will be very vocal, so you'll know right away. And I've seen tons of ads where it's like, hey, you're targeting me, but you can't even ship to me, so this is dumb, right? And so if you're working with a marketer that's looking at the comments and is looking at the behavior, at the responses, they're going to be able to fine tune that right away. So that's one aspect, is you're going to know quickly because you hear it from the stands. And then two, you use some of the marketing tools that are available to us. So like one of the tools that we use extensively is a tool called Hotjar, right? And so it's a heat mapping software. So again, now we're seeing how quickly people are scrolling on the page. We're seeing how long they're spending time. You have Google Analytics, and you have many, many, many other tools that are available at our disposal. But we love Hotjar because that we can also ask a question as they're scrolling the page. And if at a certain time we see that they're not taking action, there's going to be a small little pop-up in the bottom left or right hand side of the screen that says, hey Manny, what's preventing you from taking the next step? What's preventing you from moving forward here? And you'd be surprised. You have to ask. Don't be afraid to ask. And you'd be surprised. Lots of people, they end up answering the question, and that's valuable
Right,
insight for us.
right.
Well, I'm on here, but I really don't think that, this, and this, right? And so if you have enough traffic and enough people answering the question, you're going to be able to read those responses and then again focus on optimizing. Okay, well, people are really commenting about this specific subject, so now we need to change the copy around and we need to really emphasize that from the get-go. So I'll give you an example. One of the industries that we work with is beauty academies. We work with beauty academies across the country. And these are, beauty procedures and certifications for microblading, microneedling, lash lift, brow lamination, lots of beauty procedures. And in some of the pages that we were running traffic to, we were using these tools of asking people, why they're not taking action, or what is their perception of this, and so forth. And a lot of those replies, and this is, months ago, but they were saying, hey, I'm really curious, how safe are you guys during COVID? I'm scared to be inside a room because of this particular reason. And and that's valuable data. People were concerned about their safety, rightfully so. And so that data is really helpful for us. So now what we've done after that is we started making changes on the page. We added a section that says safe during COVID, and we talked about the procedures that these academies are taking in order to continuously be safe during COVID. And so that's just kind of an example. You will hear it directly from the bleachers when
Yep.
something is right, when something is wrong. So listen to your customers, one, and two, make use of a lot of these tools and marketing technology that's available at our disposal so that you learn more about the audience, more about their concerns, and then you're able to adapt and start optimizing the campaign.
Great, great detail there, man. Very, very well said. I love it. Now, um, I'll get you out of here in just a minute. I can hold you all night, man, because I know you said you have a decent window, but not all the window. I get you, man. Even though you're standing in front of a wonderful window looking out over New York City, um, the length, like so I get it. You're watching the data, you're paying attention to it, you're getting feedback. How long do you draw something out like that in terms of knowing like, all right, well, do you have a measurement in place? It's like, okay, this campaign we're going to run for 20 days, and then we're going to get all the data, and then after 20 days, we're going to look at it, and if we don't like it, we're going to shut it off and switch gears, or we're going to let it run. Like, sort of, what's your thinking pattern in there? How does that work, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, there's no right answer. You need to
Got it.
get this going for 7 days, right? There's no right or wrong answer to that. But typically, what we do when we're running ads, regardless of the platform, we want to give it enough time. We
Sure.
need to have enough people visit the page. We need to have enough of that data for us to assess. Hey, we had 10,000 people, 15, 50,000 people look at this, and this is the percentage of people that ended up opting in, percentage of people that ended up taking action. So it isn't really an answer of like this certain number of days. It's the number of visitors, the number of impressions that you got in order to really make that determination of we need to continue with this campaign, or how effective is this, or we need to go back to the drawing board, we need to make some changes, right? So it's just a matter of showing the message to enough people and figuring out how effective it is. So it's for some businesses, for some services, it can be a matter of 24 hours, 48 hours. We ran a campaign the other day, and we were getting leads like within minutes of running a Facebook or Instagram ad. The leads were coming in right away, like, okay, this is a winning
Yeah, yeah,
campaign,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
right? And
yeah.
then other times it can take a bit longer. So it's just a matter of showing the message, having enough people, enough impressions in order for you to start making the determination of where the next phase is and what's the next step.
Got it. So enough is quantifiable based off of some of the key observations that are within the campaign. Like you're looking for specifics, impressions, visitors, click-throughs, those types of things. That's what you mean by enough. And it's not necessarily days. You have a sample size you're looking to get to, right? It's like are you creating that number, Elias? Are you saying, hey, we need 10,000 impressions, or in this case, you just said, hey, we got leads right now, so we know this is a good one. Um,
It
right?
depends on so
Depends.
many factors. Is this a
Got it.
local campaign? Is this a national? What's the budget, right? If
Right,
we're working with
right.
a small client that only has, two, three, $4,000 in advertising dollars, it's going to be different. We're going to elongate that process a little bit longer than some of these larger clients that are spending 10, 20, 30, $50,000. So it really depends. But at the end of the day, you need to look at the data. How many
Sure.
people were looking at the page? We're looking at your message. If you're advertising, what are the replies in the ad? What's the engagement, right? So there's lots of factors to look into, but that's really what it falls down to, is just having enough people look at that message and analyzing that message so that you take the right next step.
Sure. Very cool. Very cool. All right, man. Well, look, is there anything that you have or would want to add that, I mean, like I can't possibly get to everything. So, I mean, is there anything that you think of that would be helpful or beneficial as kind of your parting thoughts or ideas here that you know that you may have wanted to cover, but that I didn't necessarily get to? Feel free to share that, man. Wide
Thank
open,
you.
all ears.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the message I want to get across is don't be scared to grow the company. Don't be scared to try new things. That's what marketing is all about. And we live in an era right now where a lot of this information is available to us. We can go on YouTube. We can look at how to advertise on YouTube, on Facebook, right? A lot of these things you're able to do on your own. So whether you end up hiring a professional marketing agency like mine, or end up doing it on yourself, just take action. Take action and take the right next step so that you can grow your business, right? That's what this podcast is about, growing. So take action and taking the next steps and really serving more customers. If you feel that your service and the product is going to make a difference, and it's your fiduciary duty to go out and advertise and get more customers. So don't be scared of it. Go out, take action. You're going to make mistakes. That's fine. But really, that's the message I want to get across: is don't be scared of the marketing. Don't be scared of the tech. There's lots of people, including myself, that love helping people, love serving, right? And so we geek out on that type of stuff. And so that's the message I want to get across: is just get it done.
And I can back that, by the way. It was starting to grow. Speaking of grow, in my mind about how you are that guy. We talked last week, and you're like, "Hey, man, how can I help you? Hey, you got me as a resource. Hey, you got me. You weren't trying to hit me up for money and sell me and all that stuff. You're just trying to help, man. I mean, genuinely. So I was like, dude, that's awesome, and I value that. And I know we have a history and all that cool stuff, but that's just how it is, and that's how Elias, and I'm sure he's running his business now. Where can people find you, brother? What is it that
Awesome,
you're
man.
looking
My
for?
website is needmedianow.com, needclientsnow.com. You can find me on Instagram, Elias Zepeda. You can find me on Facebook. You can visit my website. So I'm, pretty accessible on these platforms. But, reach out to me with any questions. I'd be more than happy to answer them. And if there's a listener here that ended up and was motivated to take action and helping understand how they can advertise on these platforms, or maybe it's their first time getting a CRM, or maybe it's, figuring out what funnel to test for their business, right? And that'll be a huge win for me. So go out, take action. And if you have any questions, I'm here. I'm here to answer them, here to serve.
Yeah, I got one last question, man. It's
Go
always my
for it.
last question too. So, what does always on the grow mean to you? That's my question.
Oh, that's a good question. Always on the grow, man. It's like in my industry, it's about always being a student, right?
Mm,
Every other month there's a new widget, there's a new tool, there's a new platform. Like right now, one of the big platforms that I've been geeking out on is Clubhouse. I've had so much fun on Clubhouse.
yeah.
uh and so you always have to be a student. You never stop learning. So that's, being on the grow means taking that student attitude, learning, listening, adapting, and taking action. So that's what that means for me, and in my world.
I love it, man. That's a hell of a way to wrap this thing up, man. Hey, Elias, I appreciate you, man. Always a big smile, great head, great solid individual, man. And I mean that shaved head, I got you right there, man, on the video right now. You can rub it like a crystal ball if you wanted to. But you stay good, and keep doing what you're doing, man. I know a lot of people are benefiting from it, and I know that this is great. I really enjoyed having you here and allowing you to share and have that level of messaging that can kind of resonate with some folks at a deeper level. And man, that's everything. So kudos to you, man. Big old fist pump right there. Oh,
Thanks so
there it
much,
is. There
brother.
it is. And let's go out and make a bigger difference. Let's keep hammering away, man.
Sounds great. Thank
All right,
you.
brother. You got it, man.